Hi, everybody. I'm Linda.
I'm Mary. Her sister's in the kitchen talking about Mother's Story. We're finishing it up today. This is our last video on Mother and Daddy's story.
And keep in mind that this is the, really we touched the surface of Mother's book. And I didn't say this on the last video, but I hope that everyone will respect us and respect our family and not say anything negative about what we've talked about. That would be very crushing.
Right. This is a picture, I don't know if we've ever showed you or not, of our family. Can you see it?
That's Mama and us 4 kids.
Yeah.
That was taken the day.
That was the day that Molly died.
Yeah.
And my youngest brother had taken his jacket off and his suit jacket, and we didn't think about it when we was taking that picture.
And
then that's Daddy. This is Daddy. It's a glare. I wonder if that glare's coming from them lights or what. But and then this is Mother. That's Mother down here, and that's Mother. Mother had beautiful blue eyes. Beautiful blue eyes.
Her eyes were gorgeous.
Just beautiful.
And she had such pretty skin, didn't she?
She did.
She had olive tone skin.
And she had hair. Linda has hair like Mother did. Silver, beautiful, beautiful hair. Color.
So we're going to pick up at the night. He died November the 1st, 1964. And that night, of course, we were all at the hospital, but you went to Aunt Elsie's.
We went to
Do
Aunt
you remember
Elsie's.
where the boys went?
I think they spent the night there, Linda. They slept on the couch. Yeah, they spent the night, but I didn't stay there.
Aunt Elsie and Uncle JB had 6 kids, and we all just piled in.
Yeah, we all went. We all
her house on Taylor Avenue. That's where we all landed. And Mary, you got up in the night.
I told Aunt Elsie when we was going to bed. I said, Aunt Elsie, I don't want to be here. I want to be at the hospital with Mother. And she said, Mary, you cannot be at the hospital with Mother because they're not going to let you in the room, and you can't be up there. Well, I just kept saying, but I don't want to. I want to be where I want to be at the hospital, so I can be there when they tell me that I'm allowed.
Did they let you in the room?
No, I stayed in. So she said, okay. Well, I got in the car and I went to the hospital, and I went to the lobby. It was so lonely.
But now I guess she was in our car, right?
Yeah,
in our
Mother's car.
Station wagon. It was a white station wagon.
Right, station wagon. And I stayed there. I stayed there in the waiting room, in the big waiting room, right top of them big old stairs, because they wouldn't let me in the building. So I stayed in there, and I might have dozed off and on some, but I stayed up in the chair. They didn't have something to lay down on. And I stayed there until as soon as it got daylight, I went and found the floor that Mother was on and went in there. So.
And that next day, which was the Monday, he died on Sunday, Mother was very adamant. You remember us going to Data Sentinel?
Yes.
And, anytime there's a tragedy, people line up for miles to see what's going on. Some of them had good meaning. Some of them just come to see the show. And she was just really persistent that we go to the Daily Sentinel. She had you to write out what we wanted to say in the Daily Sentinel. And so we went down there and gave them the story. They did not print it like we asked them to. They printed their own version, but we did like our mama asked us. And then
I went to the courthouse and picked up Daddy's the belongings that Daddy had on him, and they went and got his wallet and his pocket knife and different things that was in his pocket. And when he handed me that wallet, I told them before, I said he had $100 bill in his wallet, and they said, no ma'am, there's not $100 bill in that pocket, because we looked and there is no money in that pocket. I said, well, I can tell you right now, he had $100 bill in that wallet. So when they handed it to me, I opened it up, and there was a little men's wallet. It has a little flap that goes up under it, and it was pushed way up under in that flap, and I pulled it out. It was just in a little square, folded in a little square, that $100 bill, and I pulled it out. I said, I told you, my daddy always had a $100 bill.
Always had a $100 bill.
And they said, well, we sure did miss it. We never found it, but I knew it was there. So.
And then after we did that, we went. We had to go to the funeral home, Case and Monk. It was right across the road
across
from the
the street
school,
from the high
school where we all went.
Same funeral home that we was there just a few days prior to this Anderson, is that who it was?
Sam Montgomery.
Montgomery's funeral.
Montgomery.
Same funeral home that we sat there 2 days earlier.
And this was an old historic house this funeral home was in, and some of the rooms were real small and some of them were big for the chapel. But you talk about a wake-up call for kids. Edward
I was 18.
14, I was 16, Mary was 18.
I just
Charles
turned
was
18 in October.
And Pinky Paw went with us. Didn't Paulie go with us?
To pick out the casket?
Yes, there were several adults with us that we went and picked it out.
I couldn't remember.
And,
I knew I was there. I know I'm the one that went back to the house and got Daddy's suit.
Yes, you did. You got his clothes.
Yeah. I didn't think Charles. Don't think Charles did.
Well, he
because
might not have, but I know
Charles
there was some
could do
adults
it.
with us.
I don't. Yeah,
I'm
probably
pretty sure
was.
that Polly
Yeah.
and Pinky Paw was with us.
Yeah.
And there might have been some others, but I know there was some adults with us to do it. Which, I mean, we were almost grown kids, but still, in that time, it was a lot different grown kids today than grown kids back then. We were kids still under our parents' household, and we minded what they said to do.
Yeah, we was very responsible. That's what we were.
Yes.
We always
So,
went to church.
Then
even
we
Mama
had
wasn't home.
to go to the cemetery. Did we go to the cemetery to pick out the
the
plot?
plot.
For Daddy to be buried, because he was the first one besides
Out of
Uncle
Pistons.
Clifford that was buried. So we
That's
did
children
that.
did all that. Yeah.
We did all that. Well, Mama's in the hospital, of course, and then the funeral was the next day, Tuesday. There was probably 400 or 500 people at the funeral.
That's a lot.
And they're buried. Our parents are buried in Upper Chirena Cemetery. And I can't remember, Mary, but it's 25, 28 miles from Nacogdoches. Maybe not quite that far, maybe 23, 25 miles from Nacogdoches to the Chirena. And I dare say the procession was probably halfway there.
Yeah,
It was a lot of people. And after the funeral was over, we went with
Mother
Uncle
couldn't
Jesse.
go.
No,
Mother
Mama
was in
didn't
the
get
hospital.
to go to the funeral.
And
Linda Joyce was pregnant, and
yes,
she
and she
stayed
with
her.
Mother in the hospital.
So that's our aunt. That's Uncle Jesse's wife. And so Uncle Jesse took. I know I was in the car, and you was in the car, and I don't know who all else, but we went to North Street to Reed's Drive-In and to get something to eat, and I wouldn't eat anything.
I'm sorry, I don't remember.
I remember it very well.
I was so worried about Mother.
I can just
can't
see it.
remember.
But anyway, a lot of this is just little details that come back in our mind. But then Mother wanted us in school the next day. And that was the day after he was buried. And we were.
We went to school
We
the
went
next
to school
day.
the next day.
Yes, we did.
And I guess I need to back up just a minute. There was 2 papers in Houston at the time. I guess the largest papers in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
And our house, the headlines front page, was in both of these papers, and also in our local Daily Sentinel. For at least
Very big
2 or 3
headlines.
days.
Yeah.
This was what was on the front page of those papers. And so we went to school the next day, and
We didn't
at
go back out
lunch-
the house for 2 or 3 days, but our neighbors cleaned the house up for us. They cleaned the house because, matter of fact, they repainted the kitchen. Daddy died in the kitchen door, right standing in the. We had 2 entrances to our house
On the front.
and
one in the back.
and one of them led to the kitchen, the other one to the living room, and he was in the door leading into the kitchen. And Linda, wasn't it about a month before Daddy died, that we came home from church for on a
was at
Wednesday
night,
night.
yes.
We came home from a church on a Wednesday night, and like she said before, we didn't turn no lights on because we didn't want to wake anybody up. And
we were in the kitchen.
we was in the kitchen, and the kitchen right in front of the cabinets that led right straight to the door. It just like a ball of fire.
It was big.
It was big.
It was huge.
Big, lit up like this, just a huge ball of fire. It lit up the whole kitchen, and it scared
us half to
scared
death.
us half to death. We wouldn't looked out the windows. We thought that maybe a car.
We called our pastor.
We called Sister Minton. We called Sister Mitten and said, Sister Mitten, we just seen a ball of fire right in our kitchen by our front door. And I said, does that mean anything? Or had you ever heard of anything like that? And what did she tell us?
She just told us to pray about
Yeah,
it.
she didn't know. She didn't know either. She said, we just pray about it. And that's where our daddy died. It was right there in that kitchen, right in that where that ball of
And
fire
I'll
was.
always believe that was just a warning, telling us, or something for
I don't know, but it happened. That's all I know.
It did.
So,
We'd go to school. We went to school every day. We never missed a day. But on our lunch hour, when Mary had the car, and on our lunch hour, we go to the hospital.
go to Mother. I think we probably had just a 30-minute lunch hour, but the hospital was right down the road from the hospital.
Probably not a mile. It was just right down the street.
Yeah. So we would go to see Mama during the lunch hour, and I know I was late two different times. It was every day for a week. Mother was in the hospital for 7 days, and they was afraid that bullet that went all the way through her stomach, it went right between her lungs. And we're not reading the paper what she said, but the doctor told her, Miss Pinkston, if that bullet had been a fraction of an inch, either way, it would have collapsed both of your lungs,
and she would have died.
So he said, all I know is it wasn't your time, Miss Pinkston. It wasn't your time that God had his hand on you. And so we was worried about her. The doctors was afraid she was going to get double pneumonia because of her lungs. So we was naturally worried about Mother. And so the first time that I was tardy in my class after getting back from seeing Mother, and I'm just running every breath that day and every day that week. He said, you're tardy. I wasn't tardy that much. And he said, just go ahead and sit down. He asked me why I was tardy. And I told him, he said, just go ahead and sit down. Well, the next day I came in and it was just a few minutes and I was wore out from running, and because we go to the hospital after we get out of school, and I was just wore out. And he said, Mary, you need to go to the office and get your tardy slip. Well, I was just so stressed out, I just busted out crying. And I turned around and I got out of that class and I went to the office. And
Miss Sitton, was she the counselor, Miss Sitton?
It might have been Linda. I don't remember her name, but the counselor, I talked to her during that period. I didn't go back to that period. And I wasn't late again for that period. And
she told us we didn't have to have a tardy slip.
Yeah,
she said
she
y'all
did
can
tell
be
us
late
that.
as much as you want.
Yeah.
Most people wouldn't even have come back to school,
Right.
but we did because that's what Mama wanted us to do.
So anyway, that was just a very stressful time in our life, And Mother was in the hospital for 7 days, and her stomach said it was really sore where that bullet had gone through. And so whenever, on the 7th day, when Mama got ready to get out to come home, when the doctor was going to release her, Aunt Elsie she wanted to be with us. I don't know. It might have been Aunt Linda. I don't remember who all came with us.
Sure, but I know Aunt Elsie
did.
there.
We know for sure. I think it was another adult. She came home with us because
she knew it was going to be very hard.
That was the first time that Mother came in the door. And like I said, the neighbors had cleaned the house, painted the cabinets. I mean, they was just wonderful to clean up the house for us. And
I remember the first thing she said when she walked in the door.
I do too, Linda.
I smell blood.
I smell blood. That's what my mama said. My mother had a nose. And we told her, said, Mother, you don't smell blood. Everything has been cleaned up. The cabinets repainted. And there's not any blood in here. Well, we sat down and she said, there's blood in this house. And so I went, did you go with me back there?
I did.
We went back there. Mother, the kitchen, the back of the kitchen faced the hall. And Mother had built a closet inside that hall. And I went back there.
It was a big closet.
It was a long closet. I went back there, and the bottom of that closet
is where we kept dirty clothes.
And it was soaked in blood.
Every
one of those clothes
was soaked in our daddy's blood.
And that was one of the hardest things I ever done.
Mary was 18. And Aunt Elsie said, I can't do it.
Aunt Elsie said, I can't do it, because I went back in there and told her that we found it. Aunt Elsie said, I can't do it. I said, well, I will.
So my sister, 18 years old, gathers up all of these
a number
blood-soaked
three,
clothes.
a number 3 wash tub full. I went outside and got it. It was a number 3 wash tub full, and I went and I picked up every one of those clothes. That was hard. That for me, that was hard. But I picked them up, and you know what I did with them? She helped me carry them out to the back. I went out back. We had a pretty good field behind us. I went out in the back and I took a shovel and I buried those clothes. That's what I did.
And that's where those clothes were to this day, probably disintegrated in the ground.
Yeah.
So you talk about strong. She got it from Mama.
Hey, she's strong too. Hey, you have to be strong. Somebody's got to be strong because you can't just fall apart. You just got to keep on
Everybody
going.
can at the same time.
That's right.
for
That's
sure.
right. That's right.
So how long was Mama home?
Mother was home.
she
I
had
just
to
read
go
that
back
last
in the
night. She was
hospital?
home 3 days. Mother was home 3 days, and she got an infection in her stomach where that bullet went through, and she had to go back in the hospital. And
And she was there for several days.
she was there
again.
again for several days.
And she got pneumonia.
Yeah, and then she took double pneumonia. And it was just a touch and go there for quite a while. Now, I was a senior in high school, and this is in November, and it was just, it was tough times, but I graduated with a 3.9 average GPA. I graduated that year with the Lord's help, I'll tell you for sure.
And there was a lot of dark nights. It was just Aunt Linda and Uncle Jesse.
Uncle
come
Jesse
and stayed with
yes,
us.
Mother. Well, I tell you, after I guess it was through Christmas, it was sometime in the wintertime. Mother just got where she couldn't sleep. She just went through a real hard depression right after then, and because she said that she never thought that Daddy would hurt her because he loved her so much. But you know, the service, it just when a person's mind, when they think that the enemy's against them, they think that everybody's against them. They think that is the enemy. But then that winter, Mother she just wasn't doing that well, so she couldn't stay in the house. And this is a house that my dad and Mom built and that we lived in all our life. And so we rented a house behind the church. We found a house and we rented it. First time, we didn't even move all our furniture in it. We just moved beds and just what we had to because we just had to get Mama out of that house. So and that's when Jesse and Linda come and live with us. Mm-hmm. They moved in with us.
And Karen was a baby.
Karen was a baby. I was telling Karen, she just visited me over the weekend. And I was telling her some of the things. I didn't tell her about Daddy. I wasn't talking about that. But about how I rocked her all night one night. And had tests the next day. Because it was right before school was out. And I rocked. She had high fever. And Aunt Linda, she just... she let me rock her. I think it was a little comfort to me, too. I loved that baby. Just loved her to death. But the baby wanted me. She wanted me, so Linda Joyce would get up every so often and check on her, and every time I try to hand her the baby, Karen, well, she would cry. So Linda said, well, if you want to just hold her, and I said, yes, I'll just hold this baby. And I sat up all night in a rocking chair. I might have probably dozed off some, but I had major tests that next day. But you know what? I passed them. I did okay. But anyway, going back to Mama, that's whenever we went to Mississippi. That's when we decided to get Mother completely away from everybody.
And so not too long after Daddy died, this was getting close to the end of a 6-week term. Mm-hmm. And we had a project in English. Wasn't English, it was one of my other classes. So I wrote an essay on Daddy. And I wrote it, the title of it was Gone But Not Forgotten. I also wrote a poem, and not to be comical, but when I got the essay back, he wrote a really sweet note down there about me, thanking me for entrusting him with our story, but he gave me an A-. And I was a little bit perturbed.
Hey, this is a smart one in the family, honey. Nothing but A's is all she wanted.
I should have gotten an A+, not an A-.
I was happy with the A- or a B+. But Linda, she didn't never have to study that much.
Well, I had a good memory.
She still has a good memory. But me, I don't have that good a memory. Never
I could
have.
look at something on the way to school and make 100 on
Yeah.
the test just glancing at
Exactly,
notes.
exactly.
But anyway, it's, Mary got the looks and
Oh,
I got
Linda.
the memory.
That's not true. You're beautiful. You're beautiful, Linda. Don't say that.
So we're going to close with this. I do want to say this, that I appreciate everyone that's watched, that's listened.
Yes.
And we have a lot of Christian followers. We have a lot of people that are of our same faith or like faith. There are lots of people that go through depression. It does not mean you're not right with God.
No.
It's just another test, another trial. So if you're going through something and you feel like you should not be going through this because you are a Christian, that is not true. Don't let the
No.
devil tell you that, because we all, I don't even know, was it Paul that said we fight not? I don't know exactly the scripture, but it's power and principalities that we fight. We're warfaring
Right,
against spirits
right,
and
right.
not just human beings.
Right.
So I think that was Paul. I should have looked it up, but
That your tragedy does not have to define you.
it doesn't.
does
It will
not have to
always
define
be
you.
a part of you.
That's right.
And it affects generations to come.
Yes.
We know that. We know all about that because we have lived it.
Right.
But it's still
But we can't live in that back 56 years ago. Sunday would be
Sunday.
56 years ago. Yep.
so we've all lived good lives. We have
Yes.
not we're not rich. We're
rich in
we're
love.
frugal, but we have something that a lot of people have never had. We have love. And we have each other.
Right.
So I'm going to read this poem, and this is the poem that I wrote, and we're going to close with this. And the title is Gone But Not Forgotten. Gone is the figure of a kindly man. Gone is the father, the husband, the friend. Passed from this world to live on and on in another.
Gone is the son, the loved one, the brother. Gone to never return again to this land. Gone to sleep until awakened by an angel. Although he is gone, he shall never grow dim. In the memory of his family, he never shall be forgotten. Now, isn't that good? And Linda wrote that. What is it? No wonder you should have made an A+. But that was
y'all.
good. Thank y'all so much for your patience and listen to our story. We are through with the story. We didn't tell everything, but we told all that we wanted to tell at this time. So we love y'all so much. Be encouraged. Don't let your troubles get you down. Just always know there's going to be a brighter tomorrow.
Now we're going to get lots of calls from Mary's kids after this is aired tomorrow. They're going to all be calling, checking to see if we're okay, like they did today.
My girls has called and said, "Mother, are you okay? I love you. I hope
Blowing
you're
up both
okay."
of our phones.
But yes, we're
We are.
okay.
We are
We are
okay.
okay. We've told it, and now we're okay.
And we
Don't
think,
worry.
we think that our mom and daddy both would be
Yes,
very proud.
yes. I know Mother and Daddy's proud of us. No doubt about it, because we've stuck together. We've kept our family together, and I think they would be very proud of us, and I have no doubt.
Bye. We love
Bye.
y'all.
Love y'all. Bye-bye.